Okay, so this is page 20 in your class packet. Okay, so this is x plus 6 equals negative 8. Now we're going to try to get x by itself. So we need to do the opposite of what it tells us here. So it says 6 plus x equals negative 8. To show this on our tiles right here, I'm going to go ahead and put my equal sign in. And I'm going to tell me what before the equal sign says. So before the equal sign says, it says I have one x, one positive x tile. I'm going to draw a positive x tile. Now it also says I have 6 positive tiles. So I'm just going to use plus signs to make it go faster. Okay. Now I'm done with the first part of my equation before the equal sign. Now we have after the equal sign, and it says we have negative 8. So 8 negatives. So I'm going to draw 8 negatives, and I'm just going to draw negative signs because it's a little bit easier and faster. Okay. Now we need to get x by itself. So we need to make some 0 pairs. In order to do that, we're going to draw 6 negative tiles because we have 6 positive tiles right here. So we're going to do negative 6 tiles. And we can actually cancel all of them out. So I'm going to circle them and kind of just cancel them out. Okay. What we do to this side, we need to do to this side as well. So I'm going to add 6 more negatives on this side because that's exactly what we did on that side. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 negatives on that side. And I am left with one positive x tile over here. So right here I can write on this side where it says x equals, I know it's all the way over here, but I can write x equals negative 14. For my sentence, I just want you to write in letters what it's saying. So I have to write x, and it says plus, so I'm going to write plus 6. I'm going to spell out 6 equals negative 8. Now, I'm going to keep that there for a few seconds so that you can copy that down. And I'm going to check my solution on this side. So I have x plus 6 equals negative 8. Now everywhere it says x, I'm going to put negative 14 because that's what I found that it was. Okay, so it's going to be negative 14 plus 6 equals negative 8. Well, I know that I have a positive and a negative, and I'm adding them together. So that actually means I'm going to subtract them. So 14 minus 6 is 8, and it's going to be negative because the 14 is larger. Okay, it's going to be negative 8, and it's going to equal, and on this side it's already negative 8. So this is correct. Now, number 5. So we're going to show this to add the opposite. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to write x. Instead of subtract, I'm going to use addition. So I'm going to add, and then the opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. And it equals negative 7. I'm going to put the equal sign right there. Now I'm going to start out with my tiles. I have one positive x tile. And I have 4 negative tiles. I'm just going to write 4 negative signs because it is quicker. Okay, and it's equal to 7 negatives. So I'm going to write 7 negatives over on this side. Now to get the x by itself, I need to add 4 positive tiles because that's going to make 0 pairs. Okay, so I can cancel out those guys because a negative and a positive equals 0. Now what I do to this side, I need to do to this side. So if I added 4 positives on this side, I need to add 4 positives to this side. And I'm just going to cross out 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm left with 3 negative tiles. Right here I'm left with 1 positive X tile, and on this side 3 negative tiles. So X equals -3. I'm going to write this right here because there's a space for it. I'm going to go ahead and write my words, my sentence on this one. So I'm going to write X plus -4 equals -7. And I'll keep that there so you can copy it down. I'm going to rewrite it right here. X plus -4 equals -7. We're going to check it over here. So -7 goes on this side. And every time I see X, I'm going to plug in -3. So it's going to be -3 plus -4 equals to -7 on this side. So -3 plus -4, I have 2 negatives, so I'm actually going to add them together. So 3 plus 4 is 7, and because I'm adding 2 negatives, my answer is going to stay negative. So if -7 is equal to -7, we did it correctly. Okay, now this one we have to distribute. So remember, distributing, you're going to multiply the outside by the numbers on the inside of the parentheses. So -3 times X is -3X minus -3 times 2 equals 3. But I'm going to rewrite that. Okay, so it's going to be -3X. I'll stop it. I'll put a divider there, okay? So -3X, and then -3 times 2 is actually -6. But I have a negative here, so it's going to be +6. Okay, because a negative, or you're going to add the opposite. Okay, so we're left with -3X plus 6 equals 3. Now that means I'm going to draw 3 negative X tiles. This one's going to be very hard to show because there's going to be some dividing going on. So I'm going to have 3 negative X tiles and 6 positive tiles. So I'm going to draw 6 positives, write an equal sign, and 3 positives on this side. Oops. Now to get the X by itself, I need to get 6 negatives so I can make some 0 pairs on this side. So those all cancel out. And I'm going to add 6 negative to this side because we have to, what we do to this side, we need to do to this side. So I'm going to draw some 6 negatives. Let's make some 0 pairs. So I'm going to have 1 positive, 1 negative, cancel that out. 1 positive, 1 negative, cancel that out. 1 positive, 1 negative, cancel that out. And I'm left with 3 negatives. Okay, and 3 negative X tiles. So I'm actually going to rewrite it here. You can write your word someplace else, but for right now I'm going to write it right here. Okay, so 3X, and it's negative, right? Because that's why I have -1, 2, 3 X tiles equal to -3. Now I need to distribute these negatives to each of these X tiles to show what one X tile is going to be. Okay, so I'm going to give 1 negative to that one, 1 negative to that one, and 1 more negative down here. Okay, so I'm done with my 3 negatives on that side. So each tile got 1 negative. But we know that a negative divided by a negative was a positive. So we're actually left with positive 1. If you can't, or you don't like showing it with tiles, you can do it this way. So you have negative 3x equals negative 3. When our numbers are squished together like this, that means multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is dividing. So we're going to divide by negative 3 to both sides. Okay, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And we're left with negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. X equals, and negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. We got the same answer, we just wrote it in a different way. And I'm just going to write it right here because there's a spot right there for it. I'm going to write my equal sign, and I'm also going to write negative 3x plus 6 equals 3. Now every time I see an x, I'm going to put my positive 1 there. So it's negative 3 times positive 1 plus 6 equals 3. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3 plus 6 equals 3. Now I have a negative and a positive adding together, so it means I'm actually subtracting. So 6 minus 3 is 3. And it's going to be positive because my 6 is bigger. The sign of my 6 is bigger. Okay? And is equal to 3. And we did that correctly. Now this one we had to change because they accidentally rewrote this twice. So this is our new problem right here. 2 times x minus 3 equals 4. Oh, you have to write your words here, okay? So I would suggest writing your words here, your sentence here, where you would say negative 3 times x plus 6 equals 3. Okay. Sorry, I forgot about that one. Okay, so let's go back up here. We have 2 times x minus 3, so we're going to have to distribute. So 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. And remember, I want to add the opposite, and equal to 4. So we have 2 positive x tiles and 6 negative tiles. And on this side of the equation, we have 4 positive tiles. Now to get rid of this, we're going to have to add 6 positive tiles because we want to get rid of it, right? We need to get x by itself and wants to be alone, and to do that we need to do the opposite to get 0 pairs. So we have 6 negatives and 6 positives, which just cancel out to be 0. And what I do to this side, I need to do to this side. So I'm going to add 6 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'm left with 2x is equal to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2x plus 10. Now I'm going to have to divide each one. So each x actually gets 5 positives. Okay? You divided them for each x tile. So there's 5 tiles, 5 positive tiles for that x, and 5 positive tiles for that one. Okay. Now, if you wanted to write it and you didn't like tiles, you can write it like this. And we're going to go 2x equals 10. And remember, when two numbers are squished together, it means they're multiplying. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by positive 2. 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1, so it's x. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So x equals 5. Which is what we found over here. Each x got 5 positives. Okay, in the words, you can write 2 times x plus negative 6 equals 4. And we're going to prove it over here. When we have x equals, and we said x equals 5. That was her answer. Okay. So we're going to rewrite this 2x plus negative 6 equals 4. And every time we see x, we're going to put in 5. So it's 2 times 5 plus negative 6 equals positive 4. 2 times 5 is 10 plus negative 6 equals 4. Because we have a positive and a negative, we're actually subtracting our numbers. So 10 minus 6 is 4. And my answer is going to be positive because 10 is bigger. So 4 equals 4. And yes, it does. We should have done number 8 in class, so it should look a little similar to what I have here. Our answer is 1. Okay. And I'm going to plug it back into our equation, which is 2 times x plus 3 equals 5. And we said x equals 1, so 2 times 1 plus 3 equals 5. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 3 equals 5, and 2 plus 3 is 5 equals 5. Okay, so that was done correctly. I'm going to let you look at that for a moment, just in case you did not copy that down in class today. Okay. So we have 4x minus 5 equals 2x plus 7. And we're going to rewrite this showing adding the opposite. So we're going to do 4x plus negative 5 equals 2x plus 7. So we have 4 positive x's over here. And we're adding 5 negatives. So I'm going to just draw 5 negative signs. On this side of the equation, we have 2 positive x's and 7 positive tiles. Which is why I drew 7 positive tiles. Now this gets complicated while redrawing this with tiles. So if you have this, we are perfectly okay. All right, so we're going to show it. We're going to start showing it with numbers now. Okay, and we're going to rewrite it. I'm going to write it right here because we'll have room someplace else to write our sentence. So I'm going to write 4x plus negative 5 equals 2x plus 7. Now we need to combine our x's because we have 2 different sides. We just want it on one side. Now I'm going to choose the 2x because it's smaller to move over. So if we have a positive 2x, the opposite of positive 2x is negative 2x. So we're actually going to subtract 2x. And it's going to be from both sides, because remember, what we do to one side, we must do to the other side. And I'm going to line it up with my x's, okay? So x goes with x, and on x goes with x, just like you would do a normal subtraction problem, so it's easier to know what you are subtracting. So 2 minus 2x minus 2x is 0, so I'm going to cancel that out. And 4x minus 2x is just 2x. And I'm left with negative 5, so I'm going to add negative 5 equal 2, and I'm left with positive 7 on this side, equals 7. This is similar to what we were doing before, so now we still have such attached to this x, so we can't touch this 2x yet. We still have this negative 5 attached to it. So we're going to have to add the opposite of negative 5, which is positive 5. I'm going to add positive 5 to both sides, because what we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side. So negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So I'm going to cancel that out. And we're left with 7 plus 5, which is 12. I'm going to draw my equal sign. And we are left with 2x. And remember, if we have our numbers and our letters squished together like this, it means multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 2 divided by 2 is x, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I'm left with x equals 6. And I wrote it over here because that's our space to write down our answer. Okay, so I'm going to keep that up there for you. And we're going to check it. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite 4x plus negative 5 equals 2x plus 7. Okay, so we're going to have 4 times 6, because that's where our x was, x equals 6, plus negative 5 equals 2 times, here's another x, so I have to put 6 again, plus 7. Now I'm going to start multiplying. We have 4 times 6, which is 24, plus negative 5 equals 2 times 6 is 12, plus 7. Now, because we have a positive and a negative number, we are actually subtracting, and 24 minus 5 is 19, and it's positive because my 24 is bigger. And 12 plus 7 is equal to 19. And that is correct. 19 is equal to 19. We did it correctly. So x equals 6. Okay, so we have 4 times 3x plus 1 equals 16. For this one, please write your words over here. Okay, I don't have a lot of room, so you can go ahead and write it over here. Okay, I'm going to let you do that by yourself. Okay. So we're going to have 4 times 3x plus 1 equals 16. Now we're going to have to distribute, and we're going to multiply what's on the outside to what is inside, the parentheses. So 4 times 3x is 12x, and 4 times 1 is positive 4. I'm going to do plus 4. It's equal to 16. Now I'm going to do positive 12 x tiles. I know that's a lot, so I'm going to draw them quickly. Okay. I'm going to put my equal sign in here. And 4 positives. So I'm going to draw 4 positive signs down here. And then 16 positive signs over here. because this is very difficult to do with tiles, I'm actually going to start rewriting it over here. Okay, so I'm going to do 12x plus 4 equals 16. I can't touch this 12x yet because I have something still attached to it, which is this positive 4. We need to get rid of it first. In order to do that, we need to make some 0 pairs. If you want to, you could make some 4 negatives down here, but know that we are subtracting 4 from each side. Okay, so 4 minus 4 is 0, and 16 minus 4 is 12. And remember, we're subtracting from both sides because what you do to this side, you must do to the other side of the equation. Okay, we're left with 12x equals 12. Now when we have two numbers right next to each other, or a letter right next to each other, it means multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So 12x divided by 12. And we do that to both sides because what we do to one side, we do to the other side. And we're left with x, because 12 divided by 12 is 1. And we're left with equals 12 divided by 12 on this side, which is 1. So we're left with x equals 1. And we're going to rewrite this 12x plus 4 equals 16. And we're going to try to solve this again, and we're going to prove that we did it correctly. So every time we see x, we're going to plug in 1. Okay, so it's going to go 12 times 1 plus 4 equals to 16. Now 12 times 1 is 12 plus 4. We still have 16 over here. So 12 plus 4 is 16, and 16 equals 16. Yes, it does. We did that correctly. Now let's go ahead and write your words over here, and I'll help you out with this one since we didn't do the last one. And so I'm going to write 12 times x plus 4 equals 16. Okay, you don't need a lot of room, just write it on the side. I'll move it back so that you can copy this down. Okay, last problem. We have negative 3 times 2x minus 1 equals negative 9. And we're going to distribute this negative 3 to everything on the inside of the parentheses. So negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3, because a negative 3 times a positive is a negative times a negative is a positive. So it's going to be negative 3. And it's still going to equal to negative 9. Okay, so I'm going to write my equal sign. I'm going to write 6 negative tiles. And 3 positive tiles. Now on this side, I'm going to draw 9 negative tiles. Okay. Now I can't touch these x tiles yet. Okay, so I need to get rid of these 3 positive tiles. Okay, in order to do that, I'm going to make some 0 pairs. Okay, so I'm going to draw 3 negative tiles. And you can go ahead and do that on this side as well, because what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side of the equation. Now I'm going to cancel those guys out. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 negatives. And we're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negative x tiles. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this up here. And we're going to continue from here. Okay. So when we have two numbers or letters squished together like this, it means multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So negative 6x, and I'm going to divide by negative 6 to both sides, because what we do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side of the equation. So negative 6 divided by negative 6 is positive 1. And negative 12 divided by negative 6 is positive 2. So x equals positive 2. I'm going to write that right there. I'm going to rewrite my problem, my original problem up here. So I'm going to write negative 6x plus 3 equals negative 9. And I'm going to prove that both sides are equal. So I'm going to plug in, every time I see x, I'm going to plug in 2. Okay, so it's going to be negative 6 times 2 plus 3 and equals to negative 9. So negative 6 times 2 is negative 12 plus 3 is equal to negative 9. Now I have a negative and a positive, which means I'm actually subtracting. So 12 minus 3 is 9, and my answer is going to be negative because 12 is bigger. So it's going to be negative 9 equals negative 9. And we did this correctly. Now let's write our words. You can either write your words here, and if you have room, under here if you wanted to. Okay, so let's start with this. We have negative 6 times x plus 3 equals negative 9. And I'll let you write that down.